for me, walk 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 for me, serve, walk for me, serve, walk for me, serve, walk for me, walk for me, walk for me, serve, walk for me, serve, walk for me, serve, walk for me, 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 walk for me.
Oh yes, Mama Fou, ladies and gentlemen. You saw her in Technicolor, and now we see her in beautiful stripes from her home in Northern California. Ladies and gentlemen, and people of all persuasions, Maya Lane, a dear friend, artistic director of the magical and fabulous Fou Fou Ha. Maya, it's really, really nice to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm bursting with joy and inspiration and energy at all the people that are coming together and talking about all of these hopeful, exciting times, which is very different than the way we've been looking at it, which is, all of us, feeling really contracted. I feel so expanded right now with all of the possibilities and all the change makers coming together. So thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, not only is Maya just amazing because of her unique vision and artistic direction around Fou Fou Ha, but she also brings with her a background in psychology, and she uses her practices in psychology combined with her joy of performance and directing to help her artists and other creatives explore their shadow side and their inner fool. And without us really intending it, a lot of this morning's program and the folks that'll be spotlighted in art as a tool for social activism has to do with clowning and being silly and foolish. And Maya, do you want to talk a little bit about your practices in that direction?
Absolutely. So I've been a psychotherapist, MFT, for about 15 years, and also a performer for 20 years. And I've always kept them separate. And this is the first time when, performance is obviously not happening in the same way, when I'm trying to figure out how to bring them together. And I think the reason that a lot of us are thinking of clown these days is that the clown really holds a lot of healing, or that fool really holds a lot of that sense of possibility and open heart and risk. And also, really looking at, kind of the inner child within all of us. We all come into the world with this wonder and this excitement and this bigness, and then the world kind of squashes us. And I think that the fool is really one that, allows for healing of that inner child and really healing of that sense of needing to squash. And that's why the expansion that's happening in this whole program is so exciting. And so what I've been trying to do is figure out how to bring the essence of the fool internally, not to only be in the performance world, which is what I've been doing, but how do you find a connection to the fool archetype within yourself? And how can that fool be an ally internally that shows up, that maybe counters the critic, right? We all know the shame, the critic, the perfectionist. A lot of us these days, because of stress, we're working extra hard and, we're questioning ourselves. And so what I am interested in doing is, how do you bring the quality of this clown, this healer, this wonder, this uplifter, this change maker, to your inner world. And the work that I've been doing as a therapist recently has been with what's called internal family systems, IFS, which is really looking at how we're not just these monolithic, this is who I am. We have different parts of us. And so the work that I'm interested in doing is, how do we bring this fool, how do we get to know that fool within you as an ally during these times when, we're questioning, we're afraid, we're contracting. So this is like the latest melding of the world that really excites me.
Well, and it's been so cool to watch you evolve, Maya, from having this amazing performance company in San Francisco, and then also seeing Fou York, the New York kind of entourage. And don't you also have, where else are there food troops? Austin, Texas, is it?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was so great to hear Kay Burke talking about House of Yes, because Allegra Meshuggah is one of the core members of House of Yes, and she is the Fou York lead for Fou Fou Ha. And they've performed a lot at House of Yes, and it's wonderful to see the worlds coming together. And just to see them flourishing and performing with Suzanne Barshland's Follies and all the different things that they've been doing. And then in Portland, we have Fou Fou Ha Portland that's led by Courtney Cavanero, Electra Fou, who's amazing. And then we also have Austin, Fou Fou Austin, Austin, who Bobby Barnaby and Grace Amazing, who's amazing, and a powerhouse, have been leading that. So it's been really lovely to see how this, strange psychedelic clown dance company has, inspired people to take it to, other places, and people are really, loving it. And one thing that's been really fun is during the pandemic, our crew, it used to be okay, we have 10 people in San Francisco. Now suddenly we have this crew all across the nation, and we've been, here and there creating videos and basically asking people, hey, do you have an act from, Portland? Do you have an act from New York? Do you have an act from San Francisco? So it almost made the ensemble from 10 people locally to now we have 40 people that can really come together, which is really exciting to see.
Brilliant Roman candles bursting into multicolor. Well, you are just a wonder, and we would love to do a little promotion here for your upcoming workshop.
Absolutely. So to bring in the spring season, I'm going to have a 2.5 hour workshop that's going to be on Zoom. And this is going to be internal family systems approach of doing inward work so that you really kind of get to know that inner fool intimately. And we're also going to get to know the inner critic intimately, and we're going to have them, have a conversation, so that ideally what I want you to walk away with is having a connection, a visual, an anchor towards your inner fool that can just be there, right? So when you are, really feeling lost, this fool within you is going to show up and be there as a resource. And internal family systems, I'll put a link in the chat, is really powerful.
Great.
It's being used in a lot of different ways. So that's going to be the workshop. And if you need sliding scale, anything like that, please, I'll put my info. You can also check out the information on the Fou Fou Ha website, foufouha.net. If you're interested in joining and can't afford it, please let me know. I'd love for people to be a part of this.
Well, Mama Fou, we love you, and we'll see you in your full workshop. We're going to play a video of HONK, and then we'll have you bring the HONK leaders up.
All right.
Hello from beautiful McMurdo Station in Antarctica.
I'm honored to introduce to you guys HONK. It is a festival of activist street bands. It's a raucous celebration of music and community that took Somerville, Massachusetts by storm in 2006. And since then, it's the whole idea of activist street bands coming together has caught fire beyond anyone's wildest expectations, and it's now a global phenomenon with more than 20 honk festivals worldwide. And this year, they invited every honk affiliate out there, organizers, musicians, artists, and activists, to contribute content to Honk United. And it's just absolutely amazing. And today we have Ken Field and Harris Gruman, and they are longtime organizers of Honk, and they're going to tell you a bit more about Honk. But before we get into that, I just want to introduce Ken. Is a saxophonist and composer. His music is heard regularly on Sesame Street, which is amazing. He is the host of WMBR's radio's The New Edge and a member of the Honk Festival Organizing Committee. And then Harris Gruman is a union and community organizer who has been a member of the Boston area Honk Organizing Committee for 10 years. He migrated from immersive theater and radio hosting to social justice activism and has been a frequent member of the Honk Organizing Committee for the last 12 years. So without further ado, what an exciting thing to talk about. Please take it away, Ken and Harris.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Maya. This is what a great opportunity. Great to meet you, all of you, Megs. I mean, just blown away by what is happening here today, all the amazing people. I want to start out by first expressing gratitude to Leslie, our friend Leslie, who is, I think, here today somewhere in the world of Zoom, who connected us with Megs, and she is a long-time attendee of Honk Festival. So thanks so much, Leslie. Really appreciate it. So as you heard, the Honk Festival started in 2006. It as a small gathering of activist street bands. The Second Line Social Aid and Pleasure Society brass band was formed in the Somerville, Boston area a little bit before that to perform at an anti-war rally. And that's kind of the idea behind that band. And that band, members of that band realized that there were a lot of other bands doing that kind of work, doing non-commercial things to make the world a better place, make their communities better, to activate rallies and social engagement activities. So they set up this is before either Harris or I joined the committee, actually. They invited 12 bands. Actually, a different band that I play with, the Revolutionary Snake Ensemble, was at that first festival. That's how I learned about it. And it was just amazing. It was an incredible gathering, 12 bands. Since then, as you heard, it's grown phenomenally. We have now between 25 and 35 bands coming to the Boston Honk Festival. We have 22 or so Honk festivals all over the world that have popped up, mostly bands that came to our festival and decided they wanted to do one themselves. These are all generally free festivals, all volunteer run. We're all volunteers, non-commercial. And there's a focus on community, on diversity, on activism, and how each of these bands does their own work in their own community. It's kind of a gathering, kind of a convention like this is, a gathering of like-minded people who want to get together and meet each other, see each other. It's a big community now, so a lot of people know each other and really look forward to being together. So, and then people put on an amazing performances. There's a lot of, there's clowning, there's a lot of costuming and all kinds of really cool performance. We have a website, honkfest.org. But this year, and I'll turn it over to Harris in a second, but this past year, none of the 22 Honk festivals could happen in person. And we had the idea, one of our committee members, our committee is non-hierarchical, we don't run it, but we're all equal in the committee. There are about 10 people. And one of the committee members just thought, we don't know, way back when we were planning it, whether we're going to be able to have an in-person festival or not. This was months and months, 9 months to a year before the actual festival would take place in October. So the idea was, let's take advantage of this situation. Let's put on a gathering that all the Honk festivals can participate in all over the world. And it turned into this phenomenal make lemonade out of lemons situation. We had participation by video, by pre-recorded video, by live performances streaming on Zoom and YouTube, and seminars and panels. And we had 70 hours of material. We had about thousands of people weighing in, participating through chats, and it just brought this whole global HONK community, 7 continents worth of bands and participation, all together in an amazing way. So it was great. Now we're talking about what we're going to do next October. We're meeting on a regular basis. I've said enough. How about you, Harris? What do you have to say?
Well, sure. Thank you. And thanks, Maya, for introducing us. And I loved your videos. It's great stuff. And, you know, I think that this came at the right time in our evolution. You know, we couldn't have had an international video festival of that incredible. It was like a 50-hour crowdsourced documentary of joy and music from all over the world. It was an amazing thing. That had to come at this point. They couldn't have come earlier. You know, we built this over these past 15 years. And, you know, it's an incredibly, I mean, of course, for me, it's an incredibly live thing, right? So, I mean, to get to this point, we had to have that basis. I mean, I run into people all the time in Somerville here and in the Boston area and in my work who say, HONK Festival, that's my high holy days. Like that is the most religious thing I do the most spiritual thing I do in my life. And you know, it is like that. I mean, you know, here I'm a union organizer and, you know, I'm very involved in the action committee of HONK and trying to bring it into real, you know, political action and social justice action. But my first experience was a friend told me about it and everything, and I sort of forgot about it. But, you know, when I was a kid, and this reminds me of what Meg said at the beginning about HONK, you know, there's something special about a brass band. When I was a little kid, like 5 years old, I remember this so clearly. I used to imagine at the end of every trip that I took with my parents, there would be a brass band waiting for us. You know, there would be, I don't know where that came from, but I just knew, you know, going to my grandparents' house, going to some new town, going on a trip at the beach, there would be a brass band waiting for us. But there never was a brass band waiting for us. And so I don't know, you know.
Until now.
Then I walk into Davis Square. You know, his friend told me about HONK. I forgot all about it. I just wander in on, you know, and there's this brass band, you know, big burly guy with a beard and a kind of a frilly princess dress playing the tuba, you know, and they're playing one of my favorite songs from the Spanish Civil War. And I'm thinking, I finally got to the place where that brass band is. And I literally wept for joy standing there. And I've never stopped being, you know, immersed in this HONK experience ever since. I mean, it's therapeutic in the most deep sense. It's
absolutely.
So anyway, but I mean, I wanted to add, I mean, we did this big virtual festival. It was a great thing. I mean, the Antarctic thing just cracked me up so much. I even ran into a guy on the street and said, oh, have you seen the virtual festival? And he said, no. And I said, 7 continents, you know, Antarctica. He goes, you mean the McMurdo station? And I was like, yeah, you know that? And he goes, I worked there for a year. So I was like, all right. But anyway, I was in charge of keeping a live component in the pandemic. So here, you know, we have the ultimate live festival, you know, the most street level, immersive, participatory festival. How are we going to keep a piece of that during this pandemic? And what we came up with that I think was most important as a new concept was something we called Reverse Porch Fest. And the idea came from, HONK Fest was so successful here that the mayor of the city started another thing 6 months away from Indigenous Peoples' Day in May. He would have his own, another thing where we could get the HONK bands and other bands and any kind of music out, and people play on their porches. So people wander through the town and stop in front of porches where musicians are playing, and it's great, but that's not pandemic safe, and HONK Fest is not pandemic safe. Those are crowds of people mingling right in front of musicians. So we did Reverse Porch Fest, and it really was magical. The band walks through dense city streets, residential streets in the twilight. That was the most magical part. And stops and starts playing. And people all came out on their porches and on their balconies and in their front yards if they didn't have a porch, but they stayed there and danced or clapped or, listened, and it was so wonderful. In every little block, we turned every little block into a theater, a beautiful, almost like a puppet theater, this intimate theater with street lights and lights lighting up in people's windows as they leaned out their windows to watch. And then as soon as it started to get a little crowded, we moved on, and then we played in another place, and we played in another place, and we played, and that was just wonderful. That was such an uplift for people, and that's something that you could do in this condition because the band was, socially distanced in the street, and the people were all up on the porches. So, a wonderful new experience.
Absolutely.
And then actions, we kept doing what we always do, which is bring the bands, bring music, bring festivity, bring Mardi Gras into social justice action. Wipe a little bit of that puritanical moralism off our face and celebrate and enjoy our commitment to racial justice, to the environment, to workers' rights. Don't just do it out of duty, do it because it's our joy to do it, and that's what makes it sustainable. That's what's
Ba-da-ba-da, 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 ba-da-ba-da.
exactly. So yeah.
I'm bringing in the band moment. Sorry to cut you off, but I love your beautiful messages. I definitely feel like having this beautiful gathering today is really one of those bring in the band moments. So thank you for creating that beautiful imagery, and thank you for sharing about your work and HONK. And thanks, Maya, for hosting. Harris and Ken, we love you guys.